For this one, we are combining like terms. So any variables that match can be combined. So I have 3x, 2x, and a negative 5x. Well, 3x plus 2x is 5x, and negative 5x would leave us with 0 x's. 4 and negative 7 would be negative 3. Negative 3 plus 9 makes positive 6. In this one, you can combine the x terms. You can combine the number terms. And then the y term will be left by itself. In lesson 2, you examine the following situation. Sean earns the same amount of money each day. Noor earns $4 more than Sean each day. Write an expression that represents the number of dollars Noor earns if she and Sean each work for 5 days. Let W represent the amount Sean earns in dollars each day. The expression 5 times W plus 4 represents the number of dollars Noor earns in total for 5 days of work. The distributive property can be used to write that expression as 5W plus 20. Remember the distributive property, we multiply that number on the outside into the parentheses. Noor typically earns the same amount of money each week, so 5W plus 20. Unfortunately, she is sick and unable to work 1 day this week. That means her pay decreases by the amount she earns in 1 day. Write an expression to model the amount Noor earns after 1 day's pay is taken away. So she had 5W plus 20, but then they're going to take away W plus 4. So another way we can think of this as 5W plus 20 minus W and minus 4, because this negative will get distributed into the parentheses as well. Negative W, negative times 4 would be negative 4. It says if Sean earns $60 per day, determine how much money Noor earns during the week when she does not work for 1 day. So this 60 is equal to W. That's how much he earns per day. So we have 5 times 60 plus 20 minus 60 plus 4. So 5 times 60 would be 300. 60 plus 4 is 64. 320 minus 64 would tell us how much she earned that week that she missed work. So she would earn $256. Another way that we could look at this is 5W minus W is 4W, and 20 minus 4 is 16. If we plugged in 60 here, we should get the same number. 4 times 60 is 240, plus 16 would be 256. So you can see we get the same answer because these expressions are all equivalent to one another. Write your expression for problem 1 without grouping symbols. Use as few terms as possible. So that is that 4W plus 16 version. What should the expression evaluate to when W equals 60? It should evaluate to 256. Well, why? Because 4 times 60 plus 16 is 256. It says show that this is the case, so you're showing your work. So here we saw you subtracted 1 day's pay. That W would get subtracted, the 4 would get subtracted. So we would group our like terms together, giving us 4W. Group these like terms together, giving us 16. A very common mistake is that the W will get subtracted, but then they'll forget to make the 4 a subtraction as well. So pay close attention to that negative being distributed. Write an expression that is equivalent to this. The x's can get combined. 10 plus 2 makes 12x. The numbers can get combined. 4 plus 7 is 11. Three students got the same equivalent expression, but in different ways. Analyze the work and then complete parts A through D. So here it looks like they distributed the 8, then they distributed the -5, then they combined their like terms, and it ended up with this. For that second person, they also distributed the 8, and they looked at the -5 as a distribution as well. Then they grouped them together. They regrouped it as an 8 minus 5 to get 3. These people looked at the coefficients and subtracted because they both had x plus y in common. 8 minus 5 is 3, and then they distributed that 3. How did student 1 write an equivalent expression? They wrote the subtraction as an addition of a negative. Student 2 used the distributive property with the negative as it stood. How did student 3 write the expression? Well, student 3 used the distributive property to combine the like terms, and they thought of the entire expression as x plus y as a like term. Which method do you prefer and why? I would probably go with student B's choice just because it's something that I'm familiar with and it works. Student 3's method is fast, but it's a little bit harder to identify in certain cases. For problems 7 through 11, write the expression with no grouping symbols and with the fewest terms. So we're going to start by distributing here. 4 times 3x is 12x. 4 times -y would be -4y. Oops, I got my variables switched up here. X, -4y. Then we'll distribute this +2. 2 times 3 is a +6x. 2 times -y would be -2y. Then we combine. 12x and 6x make 18x. -4y and -2y make -6y. This one, we can think of it as dividing or multiplying by 1/3 and then distribute that in. 1/3 of 6x would be 2x. 1/3 of 9 would be 3. -5 times 1/2 x is -5/2x. This minus 12 is by itself. It's not touching a parenthesis, so it doesn't get distributed. And then I have plus 9 over 2x. I can combine my two x terms. Negative 5 over 2 and positive 9 over 2 would be 4 over 2x minus 12. But 4 over 2 can be thought of as a whole number. So I would rewrite it as follows. This negative 6x isn't touching a parenthesis, so it doesn't have to get distributed. But this negative 1/2 is going to get multiplied in. Negative 1/2, so half of 6 is 3, but it would be negative. Half of 2 is 1, but it is also negative. Combine our like terms. Negative 6 and negative 3 add together to make negative 9x minus 1. This 2/3, this negative 2/3 is going to get multiplied in. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 divided by 3 is 2, but it's negative. 2 times 12 is 24. 24 divided by 3 would be 8. And a negative times a negative is a positive. This negative 1/4 is going to get multiplied in. 16 times 1 is 16. Divided by 4 is 4. And it will be negative. 8 times 1 is 8. Divided by 4 is 2. A negative times a negative is a positive. Now combine our like terms. A negative 2x and a positive 2x would be 0 x's. And 8 minus 4 is 4. Make sure your workbook is filled in with the distributions and all of your combining like terms, as well as the workbook warm-ups or the composition book warm-ups are finished.